Hey guys, it's Paul Ritzler here, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how you can solve two-step inequalities. Now, when we look at this inequality, we have -3 minus 9r, and it is greater than or equal to 6. Now, whenever in an inequality, whenever you have a line under the sign in the inequality, it means that it's either equal to, or it's greater or equal to, or if the sign were to be pointed this way, it would be less than or equal to. So now, when we go about solving this, our first step is to add 3 on both sides. Okay, so we're going to add 3 on both sides. Okay, so now these cancel out, right? So now, when we add 3 over here, we get 6 plus 3 is 9. Right. So now we have -9r is greater than or equal to 9. So now our last step is we have to divide by -9 on both sides because this r needs to be positive. So also, whenever the rules are, whenever you're dividing by a negative number, in an inequality, you would actually switch the sign to the opposite. So, for instance, when I divide -9 by both sides, I would get r is less than or equal to -1. So that would be our final answer for this inequality right here. And let me circle that. Now, if you are dividing by a positive number, you wouldn't have to switch the sign. But whenever you are dividing by a negative number, you always switch the sign of the inequality. So, if this original inequality was said that this was less than or equal to 9, and we were dividing by -9, it would actually be switched to -9r, or r is greater than or equal to -1. But since this is the opposite, we would actually have r is less than or equal to -1. So this is our final answer. Okay, so now let's go on to our next example here. So now we have a problem where we have -2 plus -2a is greater than -6. Now, whenever you see a inequality like this, if there's no line under it, it's not equal to. So, how we go about solving this is our first step is, you remember, we have to add 2 to both sides. Cancel these out. -6 plus 2 is -4. Okay. So now we're left with -2a is greater than -4. So now our final step is to divide by -2 on both sides. So now we divide by -2 on both sides. And as you remember, since we are dividing by a negative number, we always switch the sign. So we have a is less than +2. So this would be our final answer for this one, is a is less than 2. So now let's come up with another example on our own, alright? So let's say I have 3a plus 6 is less than 9. So now, our first step is we have to subtract 6 from both sides, right? So we subtract 6 from both sides, and we get... So we have on this side, we have 9 minus 6, which is 3. So we have 3a is less than 3. So now our final step is we have to divide by 3 on both sides. So we divide by 3 on both sides. So we get a is less than 1. So, and since we are dividing by a positive number, we do not switch the sign of the inequality. It stays exactly the same. So a is less than 1 is our final answer. Now I'm going to give one more example that's similar to this, except there's going to be a negative in front of the number that comes before the variable. So our next example that I'm going to come up with would be negative 8b plus 10 is greater than negative 2. So now, when we have this inequality, negative b plus 10 is greater than negative 2, we would start our first step by subtracting 10 from both sides. So we subtract 10 from both sides, and these cancel out over here. So now when we subtract 10 from both sides, we get negative 12 over here, because negative 2 minus 10 is negative 12. So now we have negative 8b is greater than negative 12. Negative 8b is greater than negative 12. So now our final step is we have to divide by negative 8 on both sides. And as you remember, that I've said this twice, that we always switch the sign of the inequality whenever we're dividing by a negative number. But if we're dividing by a positive, we would always keep the sign the same. So we divide negative 8 on both sides. Here, negative 8. So now we get b is less than positive 12 over 8. Now we can reduce this. So positive 12 over 8 reduces to 3 over 2. So 3 over 2. So now our final answer would be b is less than 3 over 2. Or b is less than 1.5. So you could express it as a fraction or a decimal. So it would be b is less than 1.5 if you want to express it as a decimal number. So now that is our final answer for that. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you found this video helpful. Have a good day.